Welcome to RHI Sociable City Interviews, where we meet with the global thought leaders on nightlife and the social economy. Today, we are here with Richard Guini, Chief Executive Officer of Dublin Town, Dublin, Ireland.
Hey, Richard, how you doing?
Very good, Jim. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to see you again. It's been, like we talked about, a nightmare over the past 2 years. But obviously, I've been reading in the news a lot of good things about what's happening, not only in Dublin, but in Ireland, as well as Northern Ireland, relative to some of the alcohol policy changes. But first, I want to begin talking just about how Dublin's what we call nighttime social economy has changed or been impacted by COVID.
Yeah, well, it's been very tough, Jim. As we speak, our nightclubs are closed again. Just restrictions on trading hours. So we're in a kind of a Cinderella syndrome where bars are closing at 11:30. So it's been incredibly tough. We've had here in Ireland the longest and the deepest lockdowns in Europe. And the nighttime economy has been has borne the brunt of that. So it's been extraordinarily difficult for a lot of people in the evening and nighttime economy. So the government have given quite generous financial aid to keep businesses in situ, and therefore a lot are still there, but they haven't been able to trade as they would have liked. And I suppose that's a real worry on the run up to Christmas. That they're back into a restricted trading. So look, we really look forward to the end of COVID and being able to get back to a more normal existence.
Now, were you able to do, like here in the US, provide for modifications to alcohol policy or more outdoor seating? Did you see a lot more creativity in how the businesses were able to kind of keep some cash flow going outside of what the government offers?
Yeah, so we did, as you may recall, when you were working here, one of the big issues was just how costly it was to have outdoor seating here in Dublin, and that basically was it almost prohibited a lot of use of outdoor space. Now that changed during the pandemic, and the government was actually encouraging obviously outdoor use, and our local government, Dublin City Council, supported that and supported it in quite a meaningful way. So all the fees were waived for the use of outdoor seating, and grant aid was provided, and quite generous grant aid was provided to obtain outdoor seating. And it's kind of changed culture to some extent. I think people have seen it in practice, and they like it. And we've been doing some consumer surveys, so people want to see full-time pedestrianized streets, and they want to see the maintenance of outdoor seating, particularly for restaurant use. So that's something I think it's going to become a feature of Dublin life, and I think it's one that will certainly add to the overall flavour. While that's been going on, and you mentioned it as well, there was work on looking at the whole nighttime economy. So our government has taken the nighttime economy far more seriously than it would have heretofore. And we would see that as well being part of the overall quality of life issues that Dublin offers. Dublin, as you probably recall, we have the European headquarters for quite a number of the large tech companies, and we've done particularly well in attracting overseas investment. Now, some of that was based on having very generous tax arrangements for businesses. We have very low corporation tax. But the OECD obviously has stepped into that space. I don't think that's going to be as an important feature going forward. So I think we need to concentrate on quality of life issues, and that's a conversation we've been having with government. And the nighttime economy is certainly part of that. Before the pandemic, there was an increase in use of the city post 5 p.m. and a decrease pre 5 p.m. And we think we'll get back into that space. So while there's been some disruption, let us say, during the pandemic period, we believe that the future of the city will look to the dark, and that we will use our spaces more proactively during the evening and nighttime economy. So that's a space that we're certainly heading into.
Do you think with this outdoor seating expansion, though, that kind of animates the street more. Do you think this could also have some impact on what we would say the kind of the daytime social economy? So you have the daytime social economy and nighttime, but with the options of sitting outdoors, particularly in shopping areas, do you think that that may actually help bring back some of the retail?
Very much so. We do know that again during before the pandemic, that the single biggest reason for being in Dublin was actually to dine and not to shop. So that was something that had changed in terms of the Irish psyche and the use of the city. And we also know that people like to shop and socialize at the same time. So very much so, we do see that the use of the outdoor space, the increased pedestrianisation, and as well as that, I think this ties in even with the there's a lot of discussion obviously around climate change and what do we do in relation to climate change. Use of more sustainable transport is a large part of that. We have a target by 2030 to reduce our carbon emissions from transport by 51%, which is going to take some changes in how we live. And I think the use of outdoor space, the investment in the public realm, the government are talking about drawing down European funding to assist in that as well. I think we're going to have a more engaging public realm. I think we're going to have more outdoor seating. And I do think that's going to enhance the attractiveness of the city as a location to spend time. And obviously, if people are spending time in their city, you know, the retailers will benefit from that. And actually, it's a really interesting one. We've been tracking, you know, uses of the city for a while. And what we noticed again during the 2010s was a use of the city as a kind of almost a meeting point where people will come meet their friends and family. They may not engage commercially with the city, but they would use it as a space to meet. And I think that's probably an element of more continental folks living in Ireland than we would have had here.
The cafe society idea.
Absolutely, and I think that's been a really positive. That's been a really positive impact on Dublin. I think, you know, having the tech industries here and having young people living from a wide variety of locations coming to live in Dublin has really benefited us. So we do see that, you know, and we're seeing it even in commercial development proposals, this creation of recreational space. So I do think that, you know, all of these elements will fit together. And as you may recall, when you were here, Dublin cuisine has come on a lot. When I was a kid, the cuisine was not great in Dublin, and now, you know, it's certainly something that is a positive. So I do think that the overall developments are certainly going to help us in making Dublin a more attractive location to spend time in.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I was down in Bogota and I was on a panel that was looking at tourism post-COVID. And two of the points that I made was that one of the things that I know in the US we learned as more and more people began to realize what was available locally and really supported some of the local businesses just as a way to keep them to survive. But then those businesses, you know, profited by that. And so I talked about, you know, that as a country, they market tourism for people to come internationally to the country and to the cities. But I suggested that perhaps, you know, marketing tourism, you know, be a tourist in your own town is one way of building that. Now, the other thing that I remembered when we were meeting, and I know this was all pre-COVID, but one of the challenges of particularly the music culture in the city and the nightclub world was just having the talent, and not just the DJs and the musicians, but also the sound engineers, the lighting engineers, and others. And we talked about how use of public space, if you do allow for a late night venue, that same space could be an educational forum, or it could be, like you said, introducing some cultural experiences during the day, so that you're not only working that, you know, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. period, that these same spaces could be a daytime educational space or cultural space. Did that ever kind of evolve, or is that still something being discussed?
That's a really interesting question, Jim. We've actually had a kind of a backlash against homogenization and the demolishing of cultural venues. So actually in the last week, there was a proposal to basically take out a venue that's been used for traditional Irish music for quite some time, and incorporate it into a hotel development. And there was a public backlash, and permission wasn't granted. And I thought that was a very interesting development. And we had something similar, not quite as overt as that, but we had something similar in a historic part of the city about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think there's a real sense of the importance of the cultural offering within the city, the opportunity for artists to be able to perform. Obviously, performance has been devastated by the pandemic period. But I do think that, you know, at the end of the day, what that has done is educated people about the importance of culture, of the importance of diversity, and just the richness of our lives that, you know, we didn't have during the pandemic. So you know, cultural expression is certainly part of that. So I do think that we'll come out of this in a way where we'll cherish the things that enrich our lives that bit more. I think socializing is certainly part of that. We're a social creature. We might have experienced a horrible virus, but you know, it hasn't altered our DNA, and our DNA is still that we're a social creature. And I think we're going to socialize and really appreciate the importance of that socializing. My daughter has told me that you know, she's looking forward to the roaring 20s. She's absolutely convinced that when it's safe to go out to play again, that we're really going to enjoy it. And I think she's right.
Well, that gets to my final question. I know that when we worked there, some of your alcohol laws probably went back to the Viking days, but more recently, it seems that there's been almost an enlightenment to reform the alcohol laws, change the hours, establish a dedicated office with kind of a night mayor, night manager position. I know those were all they were beginning to talk, and that was one of the reasons we were there initially, was that there was that interest of doing something like that. But what has been driving this policy change, or this kind of awakening among your electeds, that maybe they need to do some reformation of their approach?
Yeah, again, look, I think there's been an understanding of the need to address our licensing laws, which, if not from the Viking era, but certainly from the Victorian era, and they do demonstrate elements of Victorian propriety, you know, and perhaps not conducive to the way people live today. So I do think that the report that you produced here in Dublin has certainly stimulated some of the discussion, and there was ongoing consultation, and as you rightly point out, the government set up a working group to examine how the nighttime economy could be reinvigorated. So it was an interesting conversation to have when the nighttime economy was effectively closed by COVID. But look, it's been a very fruitful discussion. Now, there are still elements, and I'm expecting we're in a consultation period now where the group has put forward its recommendations, which are very much in tune with the recommendations that you put forward, you know, so that we simplify the licensing laws, that we streamline the application process, which was where, you know, you had to go back to the courts almost on a weekly basis to get.
I know that was kind of a strange system where the courts were licensing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, there are certainly elements of that, and also just in terms of extending the hours. Now, there will, I've no doubt, be opposition to that. There will be a strong anti-alcohol lobby that will say, you know, that will want to preserve things or make or restrict things. Certainly, I think it's been an opportunity for us, and I think that in terms of the government engagement, I think, you know, engaging with the industry and engaging with practitioners is probably going to be really important at this point. From a purple flag perspective, we will, you know, the 20 or so purple flag towns will put in a joint submission talking about how we manage the nighttime economy and how we, you know, we preserve safety, security, well-being, while still having a vibrant nightlife. And certainly one of the things I thought was interesting as well in the government, but it's interesting that it's the Department of Culture that are driving this. So I thought it was an interesting department to take the lead in it. But, you know, they're obviously looking as well at the whole cultural aspect of the nighttime economy. So I think there's tremendous opportunity here. I think, you know, we will get progress. The extent of the progress will, I suppose, come down to us making cogent arguments and unifying our voice. I think there's an awful lot in what you submitted. One of the things that you also highlighted in your report was the fact that we didn't have good public transport at night. There's a strategy document out from the National Transport Authority also addressing the need for nighttime transport so that public transport becomes a 24-hour service.
Wow.
So I think, yeah, so look, I think there's an awful lot of the things that we were talking about not so long ago that are now coming to fruition.
It was really an opportunity for reflection, and then also to recognize the value of what was lost and really to preserve it. Now, just as a final minute here, can you say, if I came back to Dublin in 18 months, how do you envision Dublin being different? Can you just 1 minute just say it?
Yeah, I think we will, as I say, hopefully the pandemic will have passed. We will be able to socialize. We will enjoy that socializing. I think we will see further developments in terms of a better pedestrian and public domain. I think we will see the integration of various different policies. I think one of the things the pandemic has shown is that the need for integrating your different departments and your different modes of thought. So I think, you know, I think humanity will come to the fore, and you know, I think we will have a better world. Hopefully, we'll also be addressing the very significant issues of climate change. But again, I think in terms of Gen Z coming to adulthood and the priorities that they have, I think that will certainly assist us in having an economy that, you know, focuses on the experience that the city offers, and you know, I wish I was 30 years younger to enjoy it.
You and me both. Well, Richard, this has been fabulous. It's great to see the progress that you've been making, and I think you deserve a lot of credit. You're such a great leader in all of this. And tomorrow I'll be talking with Jerry just to get his perspective of maybe some of the safety issues and the kind of crowd management issues that have been happening as it relates to the evolution of what's going on and what's being planned for the future. But this has been a great conversation, and I really appreciate your taking the time and look forward to continuing to work with you.
It's always a pleasure, Jim. And hopefully the next time we meet will be in person.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, take care.